Good morning, my lovelies, and welcome to Painting in Your PJs with Minette. I have some fun stuff to share with you to finish up our Wayfinder doll. You can see I have finished stitching mine, and there's still some fun final things that we want to do with our Wayfinder dolls. And if you're brand new and just happen to stumble across my channel, I want to say welcome. Good morning. I'm Dr. Minette Riordan, and this is Painting in Your PJs with Minette. Good morning, Lorraine. And I am all about using art as a creative process for self-discovery and personal growth. Behind everything I create, I show, I teach on this channel, there is a sense that this creative project will help me get to know myself better. And I am passionate in particular about supporting women going through midlife transformation to rediscover the wisdom and wonder in their lives. And this year, I've been a little obsessed with making paper dolls. And this month went a little bit different with making some felt dolls, and we actually only focused on one doll this month. So if you're just diving in to this session, you might want to check out parts 1 and 2 of making our Wayfinder doll. So what the heck is the Wayfinder doll? So she is all about representing our inner voice, our deep connection to our intuition. So we did a few things. So last week we looked at my deck of symbols and we talked about adding different symbols. We talked about colors and what they represent. So mine ended up with 2 dresses, and she ended up with some arms and some feet stitched on. I had fun. She has a little pocket here. Right now it's full of just some little leftover threads so that I could make her look cute. Thank you. So the doggy, yeah, I love her new dress. Me too. It came out just right, better than the first one, right? Which is how it goes. We practice. And this is Paper. My sense this morning as I was sitting thinking about today and what should we focus on, my sense was that my Wayfinder, this representation of my inner voice, needs a companion. So I may use this little printed dog that I created using AI as part of my Paper Doll Animal series that we worked on, I don't know, last month or the month before, as a template to create a little felt dog to go with her. So she may need a little companion. And some other things I want to talk about adding to this Wayfinder doll that might be fun or continue to bring in that connection to intuition and making her a sacred representation of this aspect of ourself that always knows the direction to go, that knows the truth. And you could add a scroll or a map. Good morning, good morning. You could add a charm or a crystal to your doll. Good morning, Katie. Great to see everybody. Thanks for joining me live. So we don't need to be done yet. So my sense is that my doll, one, she needs a name, and she hasn't told me her name yet, but I'm going to want to name her, and she may want some other little charms added to her, and I have boxes full of them, and was hoping to have more time to gather up some of the bits and bobs and the charms and the things I like to add, but instead I was in chat with Amazon because I ordered a large whiteboard and instead they delivered a large mirror, so which won't fit in our car to be returned. This might need to go in her throat chakra space because she's all about, speaking our inner truth, right? So starting to add some final element symbols or charms to your doll. I feel like she may still want a little stitching or maybe a little ribbon or piece of lace added to her dress. So what I love about projects like this, oh yeah, so maybe she's going to need a little lace trim here. I think maybe she needs a little bow in her hair. So this is where we can really connect to the doll herself, and we can connect to our own inner playful child and simply ask the doll, what else is it that you would like? What are you missing? And often she will speak to us. My creations always speak to me, and it's learning to let them speak that I think is so important. And Lorraine, I'm going to brag on you. Lorraine shared some pictures of her beautiful felt dolls that she made, and one of hers was carrying a purse, a bag, if you will. And so one of my thoughts was, what does she need in order to carry the sacred scroll that we're going to make today? And I could tuck it in the pocket. I could pin it inside as if it were attached to the voice of her heart. But what came to me was perhaps a basket. So a satchel, a basket, a crossbody purse would be a really fun addition. I also have this fun little pocket here that we want to start to think, what are the other accessories that our doll would love. So if you remember as a girl, and whether you were playing with stuffed animals or playing with Barbies or other kinds of dolls, there were always a lot of accessories. Maggie, my daughter, went through a My Little Pony phase. And so we had the brushes and the little tiny hair clips and things for their magical manes. And so when we think about all the different ways that we can play, so why play with our dolls? So playing with our dolls or interacting with them, they continue to become these symbols of our inner voice to offer guidance and support to help us access our own unconscious knowing. So there's so many ways to work with paper dolls beyond just the creative. And for me, the magic happens through every step of the process, both through the creating of the doll as well as with journaling with the doll and continuing to work with her. And when she is complete, she will go on one of my altars somewhere in my studio, or maybe get hung on the wall for a little while where I can sit with her. And then eventually she might end up becoming part of a journal. Who knows? But we're never really done with these projects. These projects are ongoing. But the first thing that I want to do today, and I'm going to tuck that little flower there in the pocket so that I don't lose it, is we're actually going to do some journaling. So this is something I don't do here on this channel very often, but I do in all of my classes and workshops, is to do some journaling with our creative process, because this is the moment of pause and introspection. And I know for some of you it may be early in the morning, for some of you it's a little bit later in the day. So wherever you are, it's all perfect. But I want you to think about writing a letter from your future self to yourself now. And if you take a moment to just catch your breath, to pause, to close your eyes, and just imagine yourself 3 to 5 years in the future. And imagine sort of looking around, noticing your environment. What do you see around you? What are you creating in your life 3 to 5 years from now? What are you embodying? How are you moving through your day? And imagine if this future version of you wants to send a message back through time, a letter to your now self that is filled with clarity, encouragement, and truth. So in your journal, I want you to take a few moments to write a letter from this future self. And I want that to start with, Dear Self, I remember, my pencil. I remember when you were right on the edge of, when you were right, and I'm writing this really big. And then just stream of consciousness, you're going to kind of fill in the blank. And I'm going to invite you to do that and just continue listening. I'm not going to pause here for 5 minutes to give you that time to write so we keep the video moving. But I want you to think about this prompt. Dear self, I remember when you were right on the edge of, and to imagine that this doll is that future self, right? That this doll is that future self. And it's as if she is writing a letter from 3 to 5 years into the future, looking back now. So what I'm sensing here is, I'm right on the edge of a breakthrough, an opening, an expansion. So some of the prompts that I might use for that letter, and then I would spend some time writing, as much time as you need, writing this letter from this lens of your future self. And then once you write that letter in your journal or on some blank paper, you're going to create a scroll. And this is the fun part of the process. So I grabbed, these are from a journal I was making. These are the leftover scrappy pages and or the end pages, and I've been using them as just notes on my desk. So it's just a little recycled piece of paper. I'm going to grab my set of watercolors. This is the koi watercolors are such a great basic set of watercolors. And I'm going to start by just getting some abstract watercolor down on the page. And I'm going to pause for just a moment here. 5 years from now, you'll be 79, right, Katie? And what does that 79-year-old part of you want to say to you now, right? Like I think often about at 60, in 5 years, I'll be 65. And, I'm starting to think about the next 5 years, the next 10 years. What do we want for our lives? What does that look like? What do I want to be doing, right, in 5 years or 10 years or in 20 years? And rather than seeing it as scary, what does my future self need me to know now so that when I meet myself in 5 years, I feel amazing. I still have energy and joy and delight, right? My husband writes a Substack called Strong 99 that's not just about how do we live longer, but how do we thrive longer. So I'm just going to come in and really play with some abstract watercolor here. And I'm sensing that it doesn't need a lot of color, which is interesting because normally I love lots of color. It needs some bright color to match my very bright Wayfinder doll. And then I am going to, I think I'm just going to take a paper towel. I'm going to blot some of this up. Let it dry just a little bit. I would hit it with my dryer, but I'm afraid if I do that, ha, Lorraine, that's so fun. A truckload of dolls. I love that. I'm going to let this get dry a little bit. I soaked up some of that. I went through, before my in-person retreat, I went through and was cleaning up my studio and cleaning out my box of collage stuff. And I haven't even shared a fraction of all the different dolls that I've made. And I at one point got busy and stopped sharing for the 100-day project, but I'm pretty sure I've made 100 dolls. So that watercolor is glary, and I'd love to plug in my dryer, but right now that dryer is I'm afraid it'll turn off my power, which it has been known to do. So I'm going to just take this piece so we can keep moving along the process. So the next step on this scroll, I would just pick some words or sentences from my journaling to add to my scroll. And so some of the things that the words that are coming to me is, actually, maybe I'll just write it on the other side and then have this be the outside. That'll work too. So some of the things that are coming up are stay focused on vitality. I'm hearing very loudly, write more books. I have ideas in my head right now for 3 books, but I haven't been making time for writing, and you can't see that at all. So stay focused on vitality. It has been raining here for the last week, and I told Brad that when I'm done here, I need to get out for a walk, even if it's in the rain, because my body is begging for some movement. Write more books. There's 3 at least to come, which feels both fun and daunting, right? So some of these things start to feel daunting. It feels like the healing work continues. We're always on this path of, healing self and relationship with others. And I'm hearing that my spiritual practice continues to become more and more important. And some curiosity around what does that look like? Now and in 5 years. Is it different? Is it the same? So taking some time to really write this sweet little note to yourself. And then I'm going to roll this pretty little scroll up. And part of me is like, but wait, it needs some stickers and it needs some Zentangle and it needs to be really fancy. And then there's part of me that's like, Manette, complete the project, move on. It's easy to get caught up, right, in what we could do. And then I'm going to just wrap it up with a little piece of thread. And then I'm going to decide what I want to add to my doll, or is she maybe just holding the scroll in her hand? And what I love about creating little secret notes or letters from our future self to our current self is it's fun to go back and open them later. My fingernails are long. And see what we said. See if it still matters. See if we're still focused on it. So I could simply tuck this into the pocket, which looks really cute, just tucked into the pocket here. But it also feels like it would be fun for her to have a little basket for collecting things and a companion to travel with, right? So the next couple of things I'm thinking about are the basket. I'm also thinking about, I have tons of rocks and crystals that maybe she needs some other little sacred things. I also had the sense that she needs a necklace. So you can see I'm sort of curating this list of different things, and I'm just kind of making notes of what those things might be so that I continue to play with her and work on her. And if I leave her sort of floating around my studio where I can see her, then what happens is that I'll get an idea and then I'll pause for half an hour and do that idea at some point. So, really understanding how our paper doll practice, it's not about acquiring, accumulating, and creating thousands of dolls, but creating the ones that feel really meaningful and inspiring. So I think, let's see, what might it look like to create a little basket for our doll. Grab my bag of felt here. And think about, do I have a chalk pencil over here? So what size I would want that basket to be. Do I want the basket to be basket colored? I don't know. This might be doggy colored with lots of fun stitching. So this is a project I will probably do later. I'm really loving it in her pocket, but she's definitely wanting a little basket to carry things inside of, right? So one of the things about me is that I am a collector. Like when I go for a walk, my pockets always end up full of little flowers or leaves or rocks or feathers and other things that I discover along my path. So it feels fun to add like a pretty blue basket to our doll here. And I'm just going to make up what this basket would look like. And I have one of those beautiful African baskets that I love that I take to the farmer's market with me. Soon it'll be farmer's market time again here. All right, so I'm just drawing a really simple basket shape. I'm going to cut both of them out at the same time. And then I'm just going to use that same applique stitch. It's such a great little stitch for putting these pieces of felt together. This basket doesn't feel like it needs a lot of decoration, although it might be fun to do an embroidered sort of basket weave pattern on the cover. But I'm also in that place of, Manette, how simple can you make it? It's so easy when we're focused on our creative projects to really overcomplicate things. Hi, Moma Juju. Welcome, welcome. And I have taken so much away from this Wayfinder doll project, but one of the fun things that I have taken away from this is how much I've enjoyed doing the stitching and embroidery into the felt. Like, I don't know what, I was just inspired to play with felt and I've actually really enjoyed it. And I can see myself using the felt in combination with paper and other fabrics as well. Just carefully cutting out the handle. So there we have our simple little basket shape. It could even be like a purse and hang on her shoulder, right? So we have some different options for it. If I wanted it to stay attached to her, I would just stitch it to her hand, but I don't think I want that kind of permanence here in the basket. And one thing I'm going to do is on this front piece, I'm going to cut the front piece just a little bit lower than the back piece, which is where we'll leave the basket open to tuck things into it. And I'm going to save all these little scrappy bits for other projects. And I think it'll look cute to be able to see this little open piece on the inside. And if you've noticed during this whole process, like there's been no fancy patterns, no templates, it's really like trusting and just going for it, which for me feels very childlike and delightful. And then once it's stitched together, I think that little scroll, I don't know, the little scroll wants to be there. It really wants to sit right there, just like that, up close to her heart with that letter from my future self. So something else will get gathered up and tucked away into this little pocket. What I'm feeling is how fun would it be to have a little basket of flowers, to have her carrying a little basket of fresh flowers. So that feels really fun. And I'm feeling really more and more drawn to this cute little dog and feeling like maybe the next step is the dog. And what might that look like? So many different choices. I'm also getting the sense of it would be fun if she had an owl sitting on her shoulder to represent that voice of inner wisdom also. But I think first I'm going to go ahead and just get this stitched together here. And I'm going to use up this pink scrappy bit here, which looks like it's 4 strands of floss. That's what's left, so that's what I'm going to use. Nice big eye on this needle to make it really easy to thread. And as I sat here yesterday morning and stitched up the doll, there's something about really sitting with these projects that always is energizing and inspiring. Thank you. So the puppy, that's a paper puppy design from leftover from a paper animal doll project that I did a month or so ago. And while I'm stitching here, we probably won't be here the whole hour today, I want to talk about where we're going in June. So if you follow me on Instagram, I'm at Dr. Minette Riordan on Instagram. And I have been really wanting to get back into some bookmaking and art journaling. So in June, we are going to create a handmade junk journal style book to house our dolls. And next week I'll have a sample of what that looks like. I had some fun making one and then adding my dolls to it because the sense is, what do we do with all these dolls that we're creating? And I haven't decided if I'm going to start with just all paper or with a recycled book, but if you're on the email list, I will send out an email before next week talking about the supplies and the project and where we're going. So I have ideas in my head, but I don't have it all figured out. So I'm doing a fairly long applique stitch here. Probably would help if I zoom in a little bit. And I'm loving the way the pink looks on the blue. But I have found myself lately wanting to, like, I like the stitching, and now I'm like, okay, I want to get back to my love of paper and collage, and I want a container for my dolls. So that's my current idea. It will get fleshed out and developed. And I have been super crazy creative behind the scenes. Also, we have a new class opening on Saturday. Just needs the final touches put on it, called the 9 Paths to Intentional Living. I'm super excited. This is a self-paced class about really understanding how to manage your energy. And when you're managing your energy, time takes care of itself. And as we get older, energy is our most important resource. We often think it's time, but it's not time. It's having the energy to do all of the things that you want to do. And so I'm super excited about that one. And then also coming in July, and the registration will be formally opening in the next 24 hours. I'm doing, and it's been a long time since I've done this, I'm super excited to bring it back. I am doing a summer camp for grown-ups inspired by my recent retreat. I'm probably going to do a YouTube video just about that project and show pictures. The art that people created during the retreat just absolutely blew me away. And this summer camp is all called Wild Creative Enchantment. It's going to be during the month of July, and it is all about painting animals and connecting with animal messengers and guides that show up on our path as teachers. I have lots of stories to share around my connection and relationship to animals since I was a young girl. My very first oracle deck I ever owned way back in the 90s was an animal oracle deck. And it's going to be an acrylic painting class, so lots of great information on color theory and design and composition. And I am super excited about that one. And for 3 or 4 years, I did a summer camp every year, but since we moved here, I haven't done one. So lots of juicy stuff coming up over on my website at MinetteRiordan.com, and lots of fun art journal playtime and continuing our Paper Doll Chronicles here on my YouTube channel as well. All right, loving the blue and pink of the basket. It's exactly what she needed, was something super sweet and bright. And I always have really loved the applique stitch and how it looks as well. We've got a little extra piece there. And I'm just going to pull that through the center and come up around the inside of my handle here. And you can see I'm left-handed, and so if you're right-handed and you're thinking all the stitches are backwards, I highly recommend go watch a video of someone that is teaching you the applique stitch right-handed. I'm hoping I have enough of this pink to get all the way around the handle. And as I'm stitching, I'm thinking about that scroll and that letter from my future self, and what might be some of the objects or symbols or ideas or things that my future self might send back to me to support me in the here and the now. So one of the things that came up for me when I was doing the writing on my scroll was this idea of continuing to solidify my own daily spiritual practice, and that continues to become just a more and more important part of my life. And what does that look like in terms of a daily practice? All right. I'm just going to run that right back through the center and out the back of my basket. I love the applique stitch because it looks cute on both sides, right? It looks so cute on both sides. Just a really simple little knot. Cut that off. There's been something lately in my own creative practice about, sorry, that's just a little bit blurry, texture, textiles, really getting my hands into things. I found with my journal making that there was just this desire to add a lot of texture to things. And so even as I go back to paint and paper, I'm thinking about this idea of texture. So there's a simple little basket that could hold the scroll. It could hold a little stone or crystal, of which I have tons floating around the studio. It could hold little flowers or charms. This one's still, it wants to be glued right there. I got to get my hot glue gun out. So hot glue is great for gluing things onto your fabric paper dolls that, like glue stick probably would not be strong enough to hold that on there. So this feels super cute, and she feels pretty close to done. So I think the last thing might be to create this animal companion and to think about he needs to have all this fun stitching on him, which feels like a really fun project. That will be one of my sit in front of the TV in the evening and stitch project. And I got to make sure I can get two of him out of here, although maybe his back will be a different color. But I think she's feeling pretty complete. Her story is feeling complete. She's not quite done, but there's no rush to finish her either, right? There's just this idea of being able to have this beautiful work in progress and to think about what's the lesson that I learned, right? So for each project, it's nice to have a little bit of completion energy to it in the moment, not complete forever, but complete for now. What have I learned from this process? What have I learned in terms of art, but also what have I learned in terms of that deeper connection to myself? So some fun questions to leave you all with today as you begin or complete your own felt inspired Wayfinder doll. As always, I am deeply grateful for those that join me live, those that catch the replay. Thank you for being here, and I am super excited for where we are going in June. I have lots of fun ideas and maybe a few extra videos because I probably can't cram it all in. So we'll see. So back to bookmaking and doll making. Paper doll making in June is the direction that we're going to be going. So start to think about what that might look like. And one of the things I want to do in June for sure is show you how to create some really simple stencils of your own for making your paper dolls. So lots of fun ideas and never enough time to do all of them. But thanks for being here with me today. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.